So this candidate is targeting a senior level product manager role as an individual contributor. They're a bit unique in that they've got management experience in different role type, specifically as a partner manager. Been pretty successful in that part of their career, though they did have their most recent role as a product manager, as an individual contributor. And we're looking to expand their roles and responsibilities and take on a more senior product manager role at a new company. So in this specific question, we are revisiting the topic of the ability for the candidate to dive deep and specifically their ability to perform depth analysis and make decisions about product direction. And you'll see from some of the follow-on questions that, again, we're trying to probe and really looking for content, meaty content, and actionable things, specifics, and data. These are things you want to think about in your answers, and we'll see how the candidate answered it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how that actually presented.
When you've been in previous roles, pick anyone, it doesn't matter. This one you can go as far back as you want. What is the most in-depth analysis you've had to perform in order to make a product decision? Specifically, what was the issue? How did you approach it? And how did you know you were focused on the right things?
So I'm trying to think the best example to use here. So I think one of the biggest things I got into in the integrations role at Oracle was looking at the set of partners that we had and understanding that we had a relatively limited set of engineering resources that we could use to build new features for partners. One of the things that we had to do was use a pretty structured prioritization process for which work we would do for which partner, and that included doing Twitter API build, doing API builds for different partners to either improve the user experience with a current integration, or activate new types of data, new types of audiences, new revenue opportunities, new use cases for advertisers with the partner. And so we would go through, in order to evaluate kind of which of these partners, which of these sets of features to build out at any point in time, we would go through a lot of analysis looking at things like looking at the partner revenue, trying to, working with business teams to figure out what the revenue potential was, what advertisers could we enable to deliver new types of data, more data with this partner, and what kind of rev share is there, what kind of opportunity is there, and then also kind of analyzing the partnership, the ins and outs of the integration to understand what the sizes of data that we could actually deliver based on how many users we have that we can activate against a certain partner. What are the data types? What's the current usage look like among advertisers and data types on that partner? And as well as looking at things like are there, kind of asking the question, are there throughput limitations or any other types of limitations with the partnership that would be relieved by doing a build like that, if that makes sense.
And so walk me through the question was around data analysis, right? So what was the complexity of the data analysis you had to perform to deliver on something?
Sure. So looking at a lot of kind of the current usage and revenue data, saying this is the number of advertisers that are using this partnership. Per advertiser, this is the number of audiences. These are the types of data, types of audiences that are being delivered. Looking at throughput metrics, if they're for a lot of the integrations, a lot of the partners that we worked with, they would have certain delivery limitations. If it's a size of number of API requests you could send per second, or the size of gigs of data you could deliver in a day or something like that. We look at a lot of that, kind of track those over time. And in a lot of cases, the features we were considering would would be a way to improve the integration with the partner to alleviate some of that pain. In some cases, create a situation where you're actually delivering more data, and if there is a pain point around the amount of data being delivered, then it potentially creates a worse situation. But in other cases, building efficiencies into the integration with the partner to alleviate some of those pain points around the amount of data being sent or processing it more efficiently.
This is definitely an answer where the candidate could have delivered better content. And I think what's really important here is what you can learn from it. One, the candidate took their time, kind of gather their thoughts, think about their answer. Definitely not a red flag, and certainly okay to do in an interview situation. You want to be conscious about how much time you're taking when you're kind of collecting your thoughts and how many times you do it in an interview. But what followed was, in terms of the way that the question was answered, it sort of presented as if they were caught off guard by the question. Maybe they hadn't prepared for this sort of question. So it's certainly one of those things that can catch you out when you're interviewing, and you want to always have a little bit of confidence in how you're delivering your answers and not present in a way that feels like you're searching for the answers. That's one piece of kind of feedback and a learning opportunity for anyone who gets one of these types of questions. But I think this specific answer had so much opportunity to have meat behind it, and the candidate just didn't surface the details. When you're in a product manager role, it's really important to know the details. It's really important to know the metrics and the thresholds. It's really important to know the results and the outcomes. And in this specific instance, none of that came through. And so while, again, at a high level, the kind of framework was there, this was really an opportunity to shine and demonstrate. And just, I happen to know this specific candidate personally, and the content's there. It was just a function of how it was presented within the context of our interview. And I was happy to be able to deliver that feedback because it's certainly something you may not ever think about. And if you're not getting this kind of feedback as you go through your loops, it may be something you never really think about, especially if you're not doing interviews yourself. And so it's just an opportunity to be, as a product manager, upfront with your numbers, on top of your numbers, on top of your metrics, on top of your frameworks, and really demonstrate that you've got it all under control and you dive deep. You're in the weeds on the data, and have the ability to present that and communicate it in an effective way, whether it's up in an executive way, sideways to your peers and stakeholders that are kind of relying on you, or downward into your organization if you're managing people in a way that is helpful and helping people do their jobs better. So how did the candidate do with regard to dive deep? Well, let's have a look at the feedback that would have been read into the room during the candidate debrief. This is another leadership principle which did not have enough airtime in the form of questions from the interviewer. The one specific question was about performing in-depth analysis to make a product decision, and the candidate failed to demonstrate what their depth analysis was or what the specific decision at hand was. The answer given gave hints that there was potential for a great answer, hiding in the details, but they weren't shared. If that's true, this is an area where the candidate can very much improve their assessment as a senior PM by thinking through and talking through the actual analysis using metrics and numbers, utilize and then talk through what decisions were made while making sure to underline how the analysis impacted those decisions made and whether the results and the outcomes of that decision then map back to the original analysis. The depth of an answer is the depth of the answer is what really separates merely good PMs from great PMs as they move through the ranks. And this was certainly an area where a bit more probing would have helped, but certainly the candidate's lack of experience as a product manager was definitely shining through, and an opportunity for them to improve on their answers to present much better in the room. Because I think based on the feedback that was given to the candidate, that there was hints of the answers there, and maybe just not an understanding of how to deliver the answers to ultimately land the content in terms of the leadership principles that were being tested.